Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to 22 Panels. My guest today, one of my favorite people to talk to. I've gotten to talk to a lot of my favorite people in the last few days. I feel like I'm starting a lot of podcasts that way. Like I had David Walker, I had Joe Illage, I had Stefan Frank, I had Taki Soma, and now I have Jennie Wood. So like all lining up for my birthday. My birthday's tomorrow, and because it's my birthday, I scheduled a baseball and comics podcast. So I get to talk to a lot of my favorite people to talk to.
Early
Um,
birthday.
exactly. So like my spring break birthday lineup has been like a greatest hits of my favorite people to talk to. So Jenny, thank you so much for joining again. I love the new book. I didn't ask for this. Um, Funny, thoughtful, all the things that I expect from your work. You want to give us the front counter pitch?
Oh wow. This is my first podcast about this book, so this will be
Oh,
my first front counter pitch of it. Um, it's about a group of kids whose parents are social media influencers, and the kids are tired of being exploited, and so they're taking their lives back and speaking up for themselves.
that that's a pretty succinct, dead on, and I love it. My first question, because one of the ways, and won't get too deep into spoilery type things, but one of the ways that um, they wind up banding together and going from support group to activist group is when they discover that France has a law that would protect them. Now, was that something you knew when you started the book, or was that something you learned while you're researching the book? I guess
That,
I'm using a question to get into motivations rather than the other way
right.
around.
Right. So, and that gets into the root of origin story of this book. So I had just finished Paper Planes for Maverick, which
Which,
is
if
the
you
young
haven't
adult
read,
branch.
everybody go read because it's amazing.
Thank you. And I loved working on Paper Planes. I worked on that with Dozer was the artist, Erica Schultz was the editor, and then towards the end, Mad Cave hired Lauren Heitzhusen
Mhm.
as the senior editor for Maverick. And so she came in and just helped us get Paper Planes over the finish line. And it was just wonderful to have her fresh eyes on it. And she's
You could say
extremely
that she
talented.
launched the plane. I'm just
Yes,
in
she
one of
launched the plane.
those.
Yes, because Erica Dozer and I have been working on it since early days of the pandemic, and it was just nice to have Lauren come in and give us that fresh perspective. And then Lauren had an idea for another graphic novel, and it was what ended up being I Didn't Ask for This. And she wanted to explore kids how their lives are impacted by social media influencer parents, and how they would go about fighting back and claiming their own identities, finding their own identities. So that was the pitch, and she thought I would be a good person to write it. I loved it. I resonated the kids' struggles to find their own identities versus their parents kind of pushing their identities on them. That resonated with me. I grew up with a mom who didn't know boundaries. She would come into my room and read my journal and talk about it with people. And so that was a very like low grade, it's not the same
Right.
thing as a social
No,
media influencer, but I understood what it was like to have someone invade my privacy, someone speak for me, all of that. So I said yes to it. And one of the first things I talked about with Lauren is she's like, there's this law in France that protects minors from even their image being used on social media. So I did research it, and that became a big part of the book of kind of the call to action for
right.
these kids is there's this law in France, so let's have one here. And I started writing it in 2023, early in 2023. So since then, there have been some laws that have been introduced, especially at certain state levels, But at the time, um,
It was still the
it
wild,
was,
wild west.
yeah, exactly.
And for that matter, I mean, right now, the United States is the digital wild, wild west, period. I mean, we seem to put nothing below above profit. So like if there's money to be had, then it must be legal. That seems to be this current Supreme Court's position on things. Um, but yeah, no, because it's like the child star and even the grown up former child star has been a genre for a while. And because of that, it like kind of shocks me that I feel like this is the first thing that I've seen that really falls into this category because like we know how much I mean, we've been talking about how much uh, overexposure, too much fame, whatnot can make childhood hard for decades, maybe centuries. Um, and like Drew Barrymore wasn't actually having her life on the internet. She was playing parts. Can't
Right.
imagine what it must be for a 5-year-old to literally have millions of strangers know intimate things about them,
Right. And I
or
think
even a
we
10 or
haven't,
12-year-old.
right. I think we haven't seen a lot about this, in print or in graphic novels or memoir, all the different formats, because the kids who have had their lives put on social media are just now coming of age.
Yeah.
So I do think, and I hope that we get to hear their point of view, their stories from them, and how it's affecting them to inform
Yeah.
the rest of us and younger generations.
Yeah. Because I mean, even before the absolute explosion of mommy blogs and TikTok and whatnot, you started having the learning channel shows that were about the families or the pregnant teenager or whatever. And I'm sitting there going, like, how is this a good idea? This is an even worse idea than like when you're invited to come on Jerry Springer. When
Right.
you get invited to go on Jerry Springer, you're not going to enjoy the experience. It
Right.
means that you're going to have a bomb dropped in your lap.
Right, and that's why in a certain point at a point in I didn't ask for this. The tables are turned a bit, and one of the social media mommy bloggers admits in an interview that she wouldn't want her life
Right,
as a kid. She would have been horrified
right.
if her life had been put on social media, and she's
That
thankful
was a
that
great moment. The
yeah
the
she
the
yeah
the oh oh.
right yeah. She's very thankful that, social media wasn't around when she was
Right.
young.
Well, and I appreciated that you didn't actually make the parents monsters. Would have been easy to.
Right.
It would have been easy to make the parents monsters. It would have been easy to make the parents like not actually care about their kids. But the parents do care about their kids. But the parents also think that they're doing good for the world. And the parents are also a little high on their own supply, as like most people get. Like,
Right. And the parents are make that's how they make money
right,
to pay their mortgage, put food on the table, and that's, a broken system. But I
right.
did try really, thank you for saying that about the parents. I did try really hard not to make them monsters. Not always easy to do, but
Well, I mean,
it's-
because among other things, I mean, like the hardest thing about being a parent is that there are times where your kid's going to look at you as a monster and or not understand why you make a decision. Now, this is obviously that under magnifying, amplified. But
yeah.
but every parent, I mean that's the thing that made me enjoy reading this book as a parent every bit as much as I imagine I'd enjoy reading it as well. I mean, I'm a child too, because like my parents, still in that area where I think a lot about my childhood and a lot about what I've tried to do for my kids' childhood, particularly because I'm in that area where it's like the grandkids are the young ones now. So it's like I'm both trying to learn from my childhood and like be able to say, hey, I know you're doing that because I did it. I shouldn't have done it,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is not something that's easy for parents to do. We're not good at admitting that. I think I mean I think it's a human thing. Even when you know you've made a mistake, particularly when it's a justifiable one, you fall to explaining it without actually saying, "Yeah, no." Even with the information I had at the time, there were better decisions that could have been made. This is why I did it. This is why I don't regret it. This is why I hope that you'll give me grace. But yeah, you're right to be upset.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know. Um, sorry, in a completely tangential way, I'm going through something, or I'm mostly an observer looking at something similar in a fantasy baseball league where it's like, you guys understand that you all have good points. And the biggest problem here is that, like, you're going to war. You know, um, so like, talk to me about the process. Talk to me about how you put yourself into the kids' heads, how you, I mean, because you clearly also put yourself into the parents' heads, you know, I mean, you had to hold a lot of conflicting things. A lot of two things can be true going on in Jenny's head writing this
Right.
book.
Yeah. It helped that we decided, I suggested setting it in Chicago. Chicago is where I went to undergrad. Um,
Yay! I recognize Chicago. I was happy to
yeah.
recognize Chicago.
Yeah. I moved to Chicago when I was 18, so I was still a teenager. And and I put 11 City Diner in there and Margie's and a
Yep.
coffee shop that's no longer around. Why Not Cafe used to be in Lakeview years ago. So it helped me get into the brain space of a teenager. A lot of these characters are still in high school. Um, some are in college. So the thing they all have in common to people listening is that they all have parents who are some different kind of social media influencer, and they form
But
a
also
group.
related to the kids. They're not social media influencers independent of their children.
No, they're
That's a,
parents,
I think
and
that's a important,
yes, yes, they're
the
social.
children are involved. I mean, just like it says in the title, I didn't ask for this. The children
Right,
have to be
right,
part of this social media journey,
right, and they're all
even though they
exploited,
were
and
not given an
right,
option.
right, and the kids come together and form a group that meets via Zoom every Sunday, and they talk about what they're going to do to claim their identities, what they're going to do to get a law passed to protect future kids.
Yeah.
A couple of them have siblings. They want to protect their younger siblings, things like that. And the process of it was deciding to set it in Chicago, so that helped me get into that kind of teenage space. The story already resonated with me and how to break away from kind of parental expectations or pressure and exploitation. And I just created characters that I could relate to, and with the hope that other people would too. So each of the kids have something very near and dear to me, whether it's Casper's love of theater, um, our lead character Daisy's love of music. I gave Daisy a best friend and a best friend's family that was there for her, much like what I had in high school. Um, and I just worked really hard to flesh out the characters. to make them familiar to me, to make them feel like people that I know. The challenges were there's a lot of characters.
Right.
They also, there's a lot of Zoom meetings.
Right.
And how do you make the reader, how do you get the reader to learn to get to know these characters when there's a lot of talking heads? So I mix that up with action. We get to see the world of each of the characters. One character's parents are extreme sports influencers traveling all over the world, so we get a lot of action with
That's the
that.
one that I felt horrible for. To
Yeah,
have to
yeah,
film your parents doing,
yeah.
and I'm sitting there going, what's the added value to having their kid be the one doing this? Why couldn't they have just hired a camera person or used a
Saves
GoPro
money. Yeah, it
or
saves money. Yeah.
whatever? I mean, that was the set of parents that I had the hardest
Mhm.
time, like really
Yeah, yeah,
accepting. And that's when I had to remind myself that, yeah, sometimes humans are just jerks, even to their kids.
yeah.
Because
Well,
I
you
just had
tell
to let
yourself
myself think of that of them.
right, and as a human, whether you're a parent or you tell yourself, "I'm doing this to be close to this person. I want this person
Right.
with us." You don't necessarily see the trauma that you're
Right.
causing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, as you say it, I can see it more, and I'm feeling bad for calling them jerks, but I
No,
have
they
trouble with
were.
them.
I mean, or they are. I try to see all sides, but so yeah, the process was giving all the characters aspects of me and then but fleshing them out to where they're, hopefully three-dimensional and their own characters and their own actions and doing things I would never do um and then just mixing up the action with those Zoom meetings and then the
Right.
characters do start to come together and visit each other and work on this bill together in person and but it was a challenging book with all the characters and with those Zoom meetings, definitely.
And how did you decide um what types of, I mean, because the one, the mommy blogger, that's that's an easy call,
Yeah,
right? But like that's the only one that's like the obvious, oh, this is how we're gonna, again, without giving too much away, you've got a couple that shared their passions. You've got one where they took the kids, not quite disability, but a unique medical factor about the kid and turned it into a business thing.
yeah, yeah,
Um, which it made it easy for them to feel like they were doing great things, but like again, the kid didn't decide that they wanted. I mean, I work in autism, so I've seen that sort of thing where it's
hmm
like the parents have started crossing over into. I mean, what I appreciate the most, and I see this a lot too, is the parents that are able to cross over into serious autism activism, but not make their kids come along with them.
right, right, yeah. Some of these were suggestions from Lauren because we'd already had a working relationship and it was her initial baby and her idea and she's like I'm thinking, the situation with Casper, where his parents make, turn his limitation or illness into a positive, right? And then the amusement park. So one character's parents are amusement park influencers. And there was a list of ideas that Lauren had, and I just took some of them and just ran with them. And then, because we wanted different ones, and then the extreme sports was one that I came up with out of necessity. I thought we need to have some panels and pages with action and not just thinking about our readers but also thinking about the artist, right? I
You
mean,
mean
I'm well
artists
aware.
don't like to draw Zoom screens over and over and
Oh
over
my God.
again? I'm shocked, Jenny. Shocked.
before there was an artist attached to, I mean, obviously I write traditional novels too. I write in other formats.
Right.
I started out as a playwright. When you're writing plays, you're writing for the actor. When you're writing screenplays, you're writing for the director. When you're writing a traditional novel, you're writing for the reader. When you write a graphic novel, you're always writing for the reader, but when you write a graphic novel, you are also writing for the
The
artist.
artist. Oh
And there
yeah.
is no way. I was just like, oh my God, we've got to do something to mix this up. And we had amusement parks, and we
You
had
mean it
Casper
wasn't
doing
enough just to put a filter on? The
no,
cat ears,
no, no,
the
no, no.
funny glasses.
Yeah, so the parents that got under your skin the most, that came out of necessity because we needed some action. And I've
Well, I mean,
always go
I
ahead.
will actually argue having one set of parents that do get under your skin, eh, I think is necessary to make this book as good as it is too. So like there's a storytelling necessity as well as an artist necessity.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, and you need levels to evil, right?
right.
Like
Well, I mean, like it's twofold. Like watching them makes you much more much more able to have empathy for the mommy blogger, the the gluten-free business people, right? And for that matter, even makes the roller coasters like nothing compared to, oh, I get to watch my parents rock
right,
climb without a net.
right. Yeah, it's a risk because they're different stakes, right?
Right,
So we're asking the reader to care about all these kids and young adults because there's the
right,
one of the leaders of the group is in college. But we're asking the reader to care about these kids, and the stakes are different. The stakes are different from for Casper, the gluten-free, with the gluten-free business kids, and Sasha, the amusement park parent,
right.
her amusement park parents. The stakes are very different for them, and then Byron and his extreme sports parents who are risking their lives and asking him to record it, right? And
Right.
that was on purpose, but you are asking the reader to care about them, if not all equally, to at least care about them all.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that you do brilliantly in this book, really brilliantly in all of your works that I've read, is like you don't allow yourself to fall into traditional protagonist antagonist. Like you're gonna absolutely love this person and absolutely hate this person, and the person you love will make no mistakes, and the person you hate will never do anything good. Um, but that's a hard place to be both as a writer and as a reader. As a reader, particularly, you know, as soon as you start feeling for the kid, you want to be on the kid's side, not the parent's side. So when you have to think about, oh, wait a minute, how will the parent keep a roof over their head? It's both like a more difficult read and a better read immediately. But then like you become much more empathetic of the how are they going to keep a roof over their head when it's like, oh, wait, these people have a roof over their head, clearly have a roof over their head because they can afford to go off and do all this shit
Yeah,
and
no,
traumatize their kid.
right, right.
I mean, I guess they want him to have a sense of adventure and like that's not bad, but maybe a little more agency.
Right. Very, very selfish. We've got some selfish parents. Some that are actually think that they're, in their minds doing a good thing, like the gluten-free business
Right,
that, making those products available for other kids that need to be gluten-free. But
right.
um, we've got some selfish parenting going on,
Well,
definitely.
but then also like by having that many layers and whatnot, it sets up things like the non-influencer kids are like, I don't know what you're complaining about and have to understand. But then you also have some of that inside of the influencer kids. It's like, well, you
Right,
just have to go on roller coasters. I just got outed by my mom.
right, right. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so
Um,
Shane is Daisy's best friend, and I created them to kind of be this voice of just this outside voice of like, because there is a certain amount of privilege that's going on here and kids traveling the world and stuff. And so I wanted Shane to be this grounded character to be like, why are you guys crying about this? And kind of offer that point of view, especially
well,
in today's world.
actually, I appreciated that a lot as an educator because, like, I have kids that like you ask them what they want to be in life, and they want to be an influencer, and it's like, I guess not all influences are evil. First of all, I have to remind myself of that. And second,
And that is true.
maybe some of them are actually living enjoyable lives, but like I think of all the burned out rock stars because they didn't realize that like being famous is not nearly what it was cracked up to be.
Right.
That that like that like not being able to go grocery shopping on your own kind of sucks.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know? Um, so like I like that there's this thing that even has kids who are like, well, that looks like an awesome life to me, then being able to interact with, well, yeah, here's the thing.
Right.
You think it's awesome, but can you imagine having to do this?
It's important to explore all sides of it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, like everything in the world, I mean, I don't, with a handful of exceptions, like torture, demonic despot, serial killer. Um, there aren't a lot of jobs that are inherently good or bad. It's all about how you do them, what
Right.
you do them in service of,
Right. Yes.
how they fit your personality, etc. Um, but like I came up with a handful that I think are inherently bad. Again, demonic despot, torturer, and serial killer. I can't imagine situations where those are good. Um, but I can't think of a job that's automatically good. Every job I can think of, it's going to be good for some people and really not for others. It, you know, I mean, it's easy for us to look at movie stars or baseball players or rock and roll stars and, oh, they get to do this and they've got all that money and whatnot, and not think about, oh, but like they need that money for security because they have crazy people who think that they're good or evil because of things that they sang, or they need that money for security because we have a multi-billion-dollar industry in not just sports betting now, but like political betting. There was a story last week about a reporter that was threatened for reporting the truth, but truth that had lost people bets.
Hmm.
They
Wow.
started with offering him money to change his report so they'd win the bet, and when he wouldn't, shifted to threatening him.
Oh, wow.
And this was on a bet. I don't want to get like into the bet, but it was on a bet that like never should have been allowed to be betted on. It was a horrible thing that happened, and B, a horrible thing that like it wasn't chance. It was somebody decided to do this and did.
Wow.
It's like, how do we have a market on that? But once you do, so now that's another thing that like a reporter has to worry about is, oh, what if somebody bet money on my, I mean, there's no perfect, that was just in the back of my head. It probably wasn't as apropos to this conversation as it was. Let's go back to rock and roll stars or actors. People are like, oh,
Yeah.
I get paid so much. I'm like, yeah, they get paid so much, but like, be
Not
Scarlett
as much as they
Johansson.
used to.
I mean, that too,
As a
but be
streamer.
Scarlett Johansson and go to Jewel.
Right.
I don't like Tom Cruise that much, but I wouldn't want to be Tom Cruise and go shopping at J.C. Penney or even to
Right.
a baseball game,
Yeah.
you know, sitting at an audience for 3 hours where people can see you. I mean, they have to sit in the skybox or they're not going to be able to watch the game, you
Right.
know. Um, and yeah, they chose that, but like so many of these jobs, and this is where I didn't ask for this is apropos. So many of these jobs, they didn't really choose them when they had a good idea of what they entailed.
Right. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
who
You
decides
usually,
that they want to be a star actress when they're 50 and then succeeds?
right, because you're not going to get the roles that
Right.
they're,
People decide when they're teenagers and generally have succeeded by their 20s and figure out the downside sometime in their late 20s or 30s after they're already experiencing the downside.
yeah, while you're saying that, so the image of John Lennon popped in my head, and
Yeah.
if we could ask him, if he had to do it over again, what road would he have taken
Yeah.
to change the ending?
I mean,
Um,
I grew up in the grunge era. I've grown up with Pearl Jam. Like one of the things that Pearl Jam did, and one of the reasons why they're the last band left standing, is they started burying their singles. They took the songs that were going to keep them on top of the world and they made them B-sides.
yeah,
They made a deliberate effort to be able to continue making music, to not necessarily kill their fan base, but also not really try hard to continue growing it because
right,
it's like they watched Kurt go and they watched Lane
right,
Staley go and Eddie had a crazy stalker that drove her car through his front window.
right. Well, and you're talking like 90s grunge and the whole in not wanting to be famous and becoming famous for not wanting to become famous and this very like go away relationship with fame that Kurt Cobain had. And so many of the people, I mean, that's when I started playing guitar. So I watched
Yeah.
all this happen. I was watching very closely, and Courtney Love being raked over the coals because she's a
Hmm.
strong female and she was his wife,
Right.
and because everyone was in the John and Yoko,
Yep.
everyone blamed Yoko Ono, so everyone blamed Courtney Love. I mean, there's a direct line
I want
between
to
the two.
state for the record that I have never blamed Yoko Ono. If anything, I think Yoko is why they had the White Album, and further on, I think John was either ready to call it quits or ready to go completely self-destructive
Yeah,
when he
yeah,
met Yoko. And I think Yoko reined him in, and that's why we got the second half of the Beatles, not why they
right,
broke up.
right. That's why we got what we got. Absolutely.
Also,
So,
I think that the greatest Beatle is Ringo Starr for two reasons. First, he is the most underrated drummer ever.
yeah,
But second, I think he was the glue.
yes,
He
I
was the
agree.
one that always treated it as, hey guys, we're in a band. Let's just have fun.
Right. Yeah. He always just rolled with it. Ringo, okay, it's funny because when I was a little kid, Paul was my favorite, but I was all about aesthetics, right?
Right.
And then when I was a tormented, angsty teenager, of course, John was my favorite.
Hmm. Me too.
And since then, and I've come into my own as an adult, Ringo has become my favorite. Poor George has never enjoyed time as my favorite. Maybe that'll happen in my
No,
senior years.
but he might be my second favorite at this point.
Oh, I hadn't
Because
thought
as
about
much
that.
as I love John and Paul, and I do, and they're geniuses,
They were also
uh,
pains in the ass.
yeah. And they had two more geniuses in the band that I don't think they ever fully.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I think Paul
Realize.
knows how much of a genius the other band members were now,
Yeah,
but I think it took breaking up for him to figure it out.
yeah. Absolutely. So yeah, George is probably my second, and it's probably going to be Ringo one, George two for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
So it'll all even out.
and then it's like John's the songwriting genius and Paul's the musical genius for me.
Yes.
And I have
Yep.
trouble then deciding. It depends on the day of the week which one I like more because like John was a poet and a prophet, and Paul did melodies in ways that nobody had ever even conceived of before.
Yeah. Yeah. And
It's
then bringing this conversation full circle back to parenting, I would then, because they're both equally musical geniuses, one lyrically, one melody wise, then I have to go into the personal.
yeah.
And then I have to go into how John treated his first son.
Oh,
And so that,
John was an asshole until he got back from LA.
yeah,
You know, Yoko sent him to LA because it was like, okay, John, I know you have potential in you, but I'm tired of your shit. Go get it out of your system. And if you come home,
yeah,
then we'll go from there. And if you don't, well, it's been nice.
yeah. So my evolved adult ranking is Ringo 1, George 2, Paul 3, and John 4, which
Yeah.
go back and tell the 14 year.
Though I think the one that I would have liked to hang out the most with is John circa 79 or 80.
Hmm. I would love to hang out with Ringo today.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, Ringo's enough of a caricature sometimes that I don't know how the hanging out would be.
That's
Does that make
okay.
sense?
Yes, absolutely.
I don't
But
the experience would be fine, but like just like if I was actually able to hang out, if I was able to like kick back at the apartment, drink coffee and talk about TV or the books that we read or whatnot, I think John circa 79 or 80 is the one that I would get along the most with because
yeah,
I think he'd shed most of his ego by then and was focusing on trying to be a dad. That's what it
yeah,
feels like.
I can see that.
But you got to go in a minute, and I have
I
now two
do.
closing questions, so I
Okay.
gotta hit them rapid fire now
All right.
because I want your answers because they're great questions. I'm not saying that big-headedly. Lots of people have told me that, and I enjoy getting the answers, even though I ask people these questions all the time. So the first one is, I've been doing this for about 5 years now, and I feel like I've entered the twilight zone. I feel like my life has become so cool in so many ways that if you told me when I was 15 that I was going to live this life, I would have been like, yeah, fuck you. Whatever. You know, whether it's friendships I've made, experiences I've had, connections I've made, um and I find that everybody who's been in this business, no matter how long, no matter how big or small they are, has stories of just things that when they think about them, not only do they smile, but they like have to pinch themselves to go, really? Did I get to do that? Or did that happen to me? Or whatever. So what is a surreal experience that you've had in comics?
Well, this is very timely because he just left Dark Horse, but so I finished. So obviously, I'm talking about Mike Richardson.
Right.
Um, I had just finished the third volume of Flutter, my very first graphic novel series, which I published through my good friends of 215 Inc. And I took Flutter as far as I could with 215 Inc. and I had their blessing. And ever since I started working on Flutter, which again was my first comic, I saw it as a Dark Horse book. It just had a Dark Horse feel to it, and it was my dream. And while working on the three versions of Flutter, or the three volumes of Flutter, Dark Horse Entertainment optioned it for film and TV, but explained to me that Dark Horse Entertainment and Dark Horse Comics were two very different things, like separation of church and state. So if I
Right.
wanted Dark Horse to publish it, I needed to go through Dark Horse Comics. And I finished volume three, was just having a really good day, feeling very good about things, and I just reached out directly to Mike Richardson, who I had met along the way over the course of the 10 years of working on these three volumes of Flutter from the very beginning to the very last page, the sprawling 300 page opus, right? And I
Right.
reached out to him via email, and he said, yes, I, we, Dark Horse would love to publish it. And they published the collection of Flutter. And that was a dream come true. It was something that I made happen. It's something that I had the audacity to ask. It's something that I went on my gut feeling.
Right.
And I got to work with and say get a yes from this absolute legend of indie comics. And I
Right.
think here I am telling you this story right after he has left Dark Horse, and it is a tribute to him. I've met so many amazing people in comics. We could be here for hours talking about
Oh
all
yeah.
of them. And he is on that list, and he helped make one of my dreams come true.
Very, very cool.
Yeah.
Now the question that I always ask you, tell me something you love, preferably a comic, but we don't really have rules, preferably storytelling, but again with the rules, but something that you love that not enough people around you have experienced and you'd really like them to, so you have more people to talk about it with.
This is not a comic this time,
Okay.
but it is a book and it is going to be made into a movie. And it is the sequel to the book and the movie Election. It is called Tracy Flick Can't Win. Um, and it is so one of my all-time favorite fictional characters is Tracy Flick because I've
Okay.
actually always viewed her as a hero, not a villain.
Okay.
In the book Election, in the movie played by Reese Witherspoon. And I think here we are on the other side of Me Too, even though so much still needs to be reckoned with that. Tracy is, I think more and more people are seeing Tracy Flick as the hero, and Tracy Flick can't win this sequel, this book that's the sequel to Election is showing her in that light, and she's in middle age. I don't want to give away any spoilers as to what she's up to, but it just addresses all that, like how she was vilified. I just mentioned we were talking about Yoko Ono and Courtney Love. Tracy Flick was another female, although she's fictional, who was vilified, and this brings her full circle. And it's a book that I want people to read. It was released, I think, in 2023. But I just recently
Uh,
read it. I think it was under the radar for a lot of people, and I want people to read it. And then when the film comes out, we can see it and just talk about why this character was vilified when that movie came out
I
and
mean,
how we
you've
look
made
at her
me
now.
decide that and I've never read the original book, and so now I want to read both the original book and this book and go back and rewatch the movie for a long time because I never really thought of Tracy as the villain.
But see, you
I
didn't think of Yoko as the villain.
no, but
Right,
I also didn't particularly like her. I
well,
didn't necessarily think of her as the hero either. And Matthew Broderick's character went so far off the rails of
right,
what's that, and I love Matthew so much that it
right,
became
right,
very hard for me to watch the movie.
right. Well,
So I'm gonna have to go watch the movie again first.
I think that's part of this author's one of the genius of the author is, all the characters are flawed. None of them are extremely likable except for maybe Tammy in Election, the surly teenager. But even Little Children, his novel that also became a movie with Kate Winslet, like none of the characters are really likable, but you still care about what happens, which I could
Right,
think is the magic if you can do that because to create extremely flawed characters, layered characters that people still care. You don't have to like them, but you care about them. That's
right.
the secret sauce.
I mean, it is possible to go so far in not liking characters that I mean, everybody loved American Beauty.
That movie does
And
not age well.
And even without the aging and even without the spacey and whatnot, I didn't like it at the time because I'm like, they're all assholes. They deserve
Yeah.
each other. Why the fuck am I watching this?
Well, and so for me,
I
the
mean, I get
magic is,
I'm going to quickly answer my own question because I
yeah,
guess the difference is I disliked all of them. It wasn't that I didn't like any of them. I disliked all of them.
I can't imagine why. No, I hear you. You know, that's the magic of Tony Soprano and Walter White. You care about
I
what
like
happens
them.
to them. You like them even though they're doing things that you don't like or that you're
Right.
not supposed to like. And that's the magic.
and
That's
and they're not alone in terms of likability in the show, you know. I
right.
mean, even if you decide that you don't like Tony, it's easy to like his therapist or his daughter or his wife, or
Yeah.
there's so many
Yeah.
characters that none of those shows have zero characters that you like. And again, I think this is one of those places where it's important to note the difference. Like there's a difference between not liking any of them and actively disliking. And
That is
I
so
think as
true.
society, I think as society, we forget this sometimes that that it's not binary. Like things that you don't like doesn't mean you dislike. It might mean you don't care.
Right.
Don't care is
Yes.
better than dislike in terms of like your likelihood
Yeah,
to be willing to engage.
that is true.
I mean, I guess some people hate watch, but I've never gotten that either. There's so much great media, whether it's books, comics, poetry, music. Why would you hate watch something?
Right.
What
And life is short. Yeah, I give
what do you
somebody
get? What do you get out of watching something that you don't like?
transference, maybe.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Tracy Flick can't win. That's my next
I
time
mean, you sold
next
me.
time we talk, I'll have a comic for you.
No, you know, I I always ask for the comics because we're a comics podcast,
Yeah.
and because I mean that's kind of my ego thing because I'm wide enough read in comics that like it's always interesting to see if somebody's gonna bring up something that I go, oh yeah, I love that, or something that I go, I don't actually know what that is. Like, but like I'm not near. I mean, I'm pretty. I guess I'm well read and well versed in movies compared to the general public, but not really compared to people who have been up on literature over the last 20 years or people who are hardcore movie people, that sort of thing. So, like when somebody brings up a book or a movie or whatnot, it's way more likely that I haven't read or seen it. So then it
Yeah.
becomes, do they wind up selling it to me in a way that makes me go, oh, I have to go read this. And I've had a lot more luck in terms of discovering the things that I love that I didn't know about before when people wind up telling me movies or books than with comics, because half the time with comics, they tell me stuff that I already love,
Right. Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
which is still
I always
cool because I'm the host, not the listener. It's supposed to be for other people. Hi, Mom. Hi, Adam. Hi, Britt. Hi, John. There's probably at least a couple other people. There used to be Phil, but he's a host now, so I don't know how much he listens anymore.
it's
You
funny how
have
that happens.
you have to go. So I'm going
I
to say
do,
for
and
for
I
Jennie
love
Wood,
talking to you.
for Jenny the Wood, the book is I didn't ask for this. It is in stores on April 28th for Maverick Mad Cave. I think actually no, I think we're just past final order cutoff, but still tell your comic shop if you want it. Final order cutoff's not quite as important on graphic novels because, if nothing else, Barnes and Noble will have it. Um, and they also tend to do a different level of overprint than they do on single issues. Um, but yeah, I didn't ask for this is the name of the book. It is fabulous. It's always great to talk to you, Jenny, and we will see you after the next page.